So this is how things usually get started. I'll think of an idea, grab a piece of paper, write down the first things that come to mind, erase a few things, redraw it. They go from up in the head down to a piece of paper. So I'm looking at stone for the next project, which is going to be a coffee table for the living room, and it's going to have cedar on the bottom. So I'm trying to pick out some that I think have some really neat colors or even some texture on it. So there's a lot to pick from, but I'll see if I can get a nice blend of those rust colors and the grays and see what I can come up with. For the legs, I'm going to use these posts right here. This was a cedar post that I had finished for the stairs in the house, and it was an extra one. So I cut it into 4. They are each 14 inches in height. And for a coffee table, they say you want between 16 and 18 inches total height. All right, so this is the plan. It's a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. That's going to be the bottom of it. Well, actually the top. And then the 4 legs that I cut. Improvise and adapt. Do that all around. This top surface will get painted, but I just want to fill in a few of these knots and holes that are in here. And yes, I know they do make putty knives and paint scrapers, and I have a whole bunch of them, but right now I can't find any, so I have a whole bunch of these too. Multi-purpose tool. Alright, so literally it took me 2 hours to pick the stone, lay it down, figure out what's going to fit, what's not. I didn't want to alter them too much. I did have to nick a couple little corners off, but I got a variety of colors and patterns. I would say, I don't know which one's my favorite yet. I got the golds and the browns, the blues, grays. This one here I absolutely love. It has a tiny layer of very shiny silvery rock right there. Now I know that's going to come loose, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a coat of varnish on each one of these to help seal that in, because this I think is my favorite one. And the reason being, it looks like a wave of an ocean. You can see it's got a pattern of, you may not be able to tell, of real silvery pieces blended in. It's actually kind of a wavy pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and seal all of the rocks. And the reason I'm doing that is because these have some really loose flakes on them. I don't want to lose those flakes when I pour the epoxy on them. So I have my usual poly wipe on. This time I'm not wiping because I don't want to risk losing that. So I want to make sure I get some underneath where those layers are, those really thin layers. Let that soak underneath there, and that will help glue it down and keep it from coming apart when I pour the resin over it. I'm starting to put the apron on around it, and I happened to find we had some 1x3 cedar strips that were left from the, I think it was from the gable end of the house. So I'm going to use those. They're rough on one side, which I'm going to leave. I sanded it just a little bit so you don't get splinters if you're touching it, but I'm going to leave it rough, and I measured the stone, the height of the stone, the highest one is 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to leave it right at 3/4 because I don't want everything covered up with the resin and it being completely flat and shiny and boring. So I believe this stone right here is going to stick up just a smidge above the resin, and a couple of other ones because they're not flat. I mean, stones are naturally curvy and uneven, so I think it'll add a little bit more dimension than just having it completely covered in epoxy and completely flat. So I have 3 sides up, have them glued, have some finishing nails in them, and then once I get the other one on, I'll clamp them so they dry. So far everything's staying level, so fingers crossed, because when we pour the resin we'll find out for sure if it's level or not. And in the middle there, I just had to see once how this was going to look. These are river stone, and you can see the colors in them. You know, they have the grays and the black and brown and some cream. At first I thought they might be a little too distracting, but I don't know, maybe not. So we're going to use these river stones. I got these at Hobby Lobby. You can get them at your craft store. $2.99. I actually got them for half price, so I think I got 5 bags. So it'll be important that when I pour the resin, it doesn't drip all over and get through cracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a thin bead of silicone along the edges and make sure those are all sealed up good. And then I'm going to let it dry overnight. Picked a bunch of cedar branches the other day. And I was purposely looking for ones that had curves in them. So what I'm going to do, I just have one laying there for an example. I'm going to go ahead and clean up 2 of them from the ends there. And those they'll be more for decoration. They're not really going to support any weight, but that just kind of shows you a little bit about how it's going to fit under there. It'll be raised up a little bit, and it'll kind of angle and be connected to both of the front legs there. So these are going to be the short braces that are on the shorter ends of the table, and they're more for decoration than anything. But I wanted to show you the pre and post, and really this is how I kind of got addicted to it. There was one day I was just out in the woods, picked up some cedar, and you know, it was all covered with moss and looked pretty raunchy. All I did was take a sander to it, and that's how I got hooked. And then this other one still had a lot of its bark on it yet, so it was pretty rough on it. But it also had, you know, the moss growing on it. So that one sanded up really good too, and look at that. You can really see some of the grain coming out. So this is why I do what I do. I think it's very interesting, and you never know what things are going to look like. Sometimes you just gotta look past the ugly. Alright, I'm just gonna attach the legs. Like I said, they're not really supporting any weight. They're more for decoration.